Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pre-show. I'm John Aderola. I'm a little bit out of breath because I've been running around a lot. These days are so busy. We've started doing on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday special videos for TikTok, so look forward to those. If you're not already following us on TikTok, it's at The Damage Report. Our last video was about the Frito-Lay protests. We've got another one coming out today about Amazon. So yeah, the day man is right. I am too busy making TikToks. But anyway, we got a lot on the pre-show for you, and it is Big News Wednesday. So prepare, not only for a lot of domestic political news, including a new bill that Bernie Sanders is involved in that looks awesome. Very excited about that. We've got a fact check on COVID and how the law intersects with your immunization status. And then we have got possibly the biggest meanwhile in ever. So that's all coming in more. And somewhere along the way, I'm gonna get some more coffee. How are you all doing? How's everyone's morning going? Thank you to the many of you who are already here. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Why is there no waiting room? There is a waiting room, I think. I think it goes live. Hey, Chaotic Dreamer, how's it going? That's awesome. Anyway, thank you everybody for being here. We've got some news to jump into. What should we start with? Should we start with some good news? Should we start with some weird news? Some news I don't really care about? We've got all of those. So the good news first. There's a university in South Carolina, South Carolina State University. It is apparently the state's only public HBCU, the historically black college or university, that has announced that it is going to be clearing the loan accounts of 2,500 students. So those are students who had to basically leave the school because they could no longer afford college. So they had not registered for classes or had dropped out entirely, and so they're canceling $9.8 million using money actually from the CARES Act, which I didn't know that they could. That's awesome. And this is good news, but I don't know, it leaves me feeling a little bit bad in some ways. I mean, one is that they're clearing the loans to help out students who basically had to leave. Now, hopefully that will mean maybe that some of those students can pursue education. I hope, I assume that's part of the goal. But the fact that the aid is only coming after we've been driven out of the system, or students at this school have been driven out of the system, that sucks. Why is that a consideration that you should even have? Like, if you are willing to spend years learning and then going out there and presumably, you know, helping out the country, helping us all out, like, why are we giving you this added level of stress about whether you'll be able to pay for it? I know, like, I loved college. I loved it so much. I spent another, 5 years in grad school. It's great, but it was stressful. Undergrad was stressful. My family didn't have really any money. So thankfully there was student loans and stuff like that, or else I would have never gotten that and I wouldn't be here. And grad school was difficult too. I was working, and thankfully there's some stuff about Texas universities that make it so it's easier for some grad students to be able to pay their way. But yeah, this it's small and it's piecemeal. Yes, it was UConn. And I don't know, more importantly, it leaves me thinking, well, you know, if they can do that, and that's great. Think about how it helps those students. Maybe they can finish their education. Maybe they can participate in the economy more fully. Well, Biden, you could do that. It could affect a lot more than 2,500 people. Wouldn't that be awesome? Consider it. Consider it. Anyway, other news, Tom Barrack, former advisor to Trump, was charged with illegal foreign lobbying on behalf of the United Arab Emirates. So this is, I mean, I don't even know what number person in the Trump circle has now been charged with crimes. And it's not even the first, it's not even like you would think a president's aide, advisor, friend, confidant, all that being charged with crimes, that would be the significant thing. For Trump, it's, well, what sort of crimes? Let's separate it that way. Except he's not even the only person illegally lobbying for a foreign country. So it's not even notable in that way. And so I'm left feeling like, yeah, there's another one. I don't know. Let me know if you feel differently. For me, it's like, yeah, okay, there was another person. He was the chairman of the inaugural committee, which has its own whole area of seemingly massive financial corruption. But that's not what this is about. So I don't know. I can't get too invested in it considering everything else that's unfortunately going on. One thing I did want to let you know about, and this is credit, I believe this was to Edwin. We have a shared Slack for TDR, and anyone involved in the show can submit stories that they're interested in. And the people who work on TDR, like the producers, the stage people, graphics, publishing, all that, are all very invested in politics. So there's a lot of interest. And what's awesome is in different areas. So anyway, I believe this was Edwin. And it's about Niles, Illinois. It's being reported in the Chicago Sun-Times. You could definitely get a lot more information there. And it's about a library board that has found a way effectively to kill a library while technically still having the library be there. I understand that the camera is shaking. I apologize for that. If I could find a way to mount it on the actual tripod, that would be great. But anyway, so what form does that come in? Well, you can remove different types of literature. You can remove supplementary services, especially ones that culturally you have a problem on. So for it looks like it's focused on me. You're all saying that it's not focused. Is this not focused? It looks focused. Anyway, so for instance, they did at this particular library yoga. Nope, that's going to be gone. So sending librarians to schools to help educate, kids and get them invested in reading and wanting to go to the library. Nope, they're cutting that out too. They're removing foreign language books. There's going to be new books and a new roof. They're canceling the order for that. So slashing the hours overall, slashing the budget overall. So why would you do this? Well, you would do this if you didn't want kids to learn. You certainly didn't want them to read. And the thing is, like, a library board is not supposed to be this hotly contested partisan battleground. And because it isn't, if all of a sudden one group becomes hyper-focused on it and can get a bunch of funding to get people elected and stuff like that, it's relatively easy. This is a phone, by the way. Leave me alone, everybody. It's relatively easy to take over, and so they're doing that. Now, thankfully, parents are really invested in this, and there are protests going on. In fact, Mark Jacob 16 on Twitter has a bunch of the video at these protests. But this is the thing. This is a cultural war across multiple different topic areas that's being waged almost entirely by one side, which is being driven by massive misinformation that is effectively impossible to rebut. And they are coming in and attacking, and there's conceivably another side. They don't even know that this is going to happen, so they're completely caught off guard. And this is a case study for one example of that. This library, but it's not going to be the only one. If you care about libraries, and I really hope that you do, I've been talking recently about how much I miss books and bookstores and reading and book fairs and all that. This is an area that potentially you might want to get involved in. You know, if you are really interested and invested in politics, you care about what is true, but don't necessarily think that you can, run for Congress or something like that. Maybe getting involved with your local library is not a bad idea. Whether it's actually running for the board or just trying to check in on what they're doing, what the sort of driving philosophy is of the board, that might be one way that you can make a big difference. Okay, there is a chart. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. I don't think that we necessarily have time. I'm going to save it for tomorrow, but it's coming and it's awesome. We just passed 1,000 likes, so in a moment we are going to make it to our headline story. Gabby says English is a foreign language. Clever. Beacon City Confidential says Trump extended Secret Service protection for Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, Steve Mnuchin, and Mark Meadows for a period of 6 months. Ended yesterday. Okay, yeah, no, they should be fine, and I don't want them to be fine. I understand. I despise literally every one of them. They're some of the biggest villains in the country, at least Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows. But don't harass them. Don't talk to them. Like, just try to, like, can we just move them aside? I don't want to have to think about them. I would love to never have to watch a video of Steve Mnuchin again. Would you be down for that? Never having to see his face ever again? Oh, that'd be awesome. I could go for that. Yeah, if your stream is blurry, people are saying to reload it. That might help. Denny Doom says, praise bacon. I do, in whichever form, even its natural form. The Only Allegra, welcome to Tier 3 YouTube membership. If everybody doesn't know, Allegra is an awesome part of the community. Thank you for being here. And by the way, got to Tier 3 just in time for next week. We're going to have our live monthly Q&A. So we'll be able to talk a little bit of politics, a little bit of not politics. We'll see what's going on. Okay, let's see. Tom Twitter. Hey, Tom. Says 99.6% of new cases are unvaccinated. Those of us who've gotten vaccinated are giving everyone a preview of life returning to normal, and none of us wants to go back to lockdowns and mask mandates. What Tom is saying there is exactly true, and I wish more MAGA heads would get that. Like, you could be safe. You could go back to normal. We could have it already. This isn't a thing where we would have to push for another 6 months. We could be at 80% vaccinated right now. We have the supplies. Thank you, Tom. Missed you, buddy. Non-Human Humanist says, before books get replaced by Flat Earther, New Earth Creationists, and other IQ warrior topics, hey, as long as they're writing. Jake Register says, good morning, King. Hope you have a kick-ass Wednesday. Thank you. I hope that you do too. And someone said, you miss books, go to a bookstore. No, yes, I get that. My point is, do you get that there are a lot less bookstores than there used to be? There used to be so many awesome ones, Borders and Walden Books, and independent ones as well. And there's still a good number of independent ones, including in the LA area. Half-price books down in Texas. It might be in other places too. I do want to go to another bookstore. But it's pretty much Barnes & Noble. And even here in LA, multiple Barnes & Nobles have closed. There used to be a big one in Santa Monica that's not there anymore. Books A Million. Yes, that's a good one too. I used to go to Walden Books in the mall all the time. Anyway, we are running out of time, so let's jump into this last story. So what does the headline mean? That they're asking for the vaccine, but it's too late. You might think, no, they're not. They don't want the vaccine. You're right. Most of them do not want the vaccine. But one doctor, Brittany Kobia, from the Grandview Medical Center in Birmingham, Alabama, has shared her experience at AL.com about those who didn't believe that they needed the vaccine, coming to the realization, unfortunately, too late that they do. So she said, on a Facebook post, I'm admitting young, healthy people to the hospital with very serious COVID infections. One of the last things they do before they're intubated is beg me for the vaccine. I hold their hand and tell them that I'm sorry, but it's too late. And that right there is heartbreaking. And I know that we're going to have a philosophical divide there. Some of you think, they should have known, and I get it. That like we shouldn't have sympathy for people who are endangering other people. I get what you're saying. I don't agree, but I get what you're saying. And the vaccine has been available in Alabama for literally months. Only 33.7% of the population is fully vaccinated, far lower than the national average. She talks about the experience before there was a vaccine, of how tragic it was. And it shouldn't be anymore. It doesn't need to be anymore, but it is. Doctors like Kobia are still experiencing this every day. What has to be a devastating life. Because of it, like in Alabama, state officials report 94% of COVID hospital patients and 96% of Alabamians who have died of COVID since April were not fully vaccinated. Yeah. Tucker, if you're watching this, Tucker Carlson, that's because this is a fucking pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's what it looks like. And I understand that if you were to poll people in Alabama, who do you agree with more? Who do you respect and look up to? You got Tucker Carlson and you got this jackass leftist John Iadarola. Every single one of them would say Tucker Carlson. But the difference between us that I wish they would acknowledge is that I don't want them to fucking die and he doesn't give a shit. He has no fucking interest in your life. And I would love to not have numbers like that. Alabama doesn't need to lose people every single goddamn day when a vaccine's been available since early this year. But unfortunately it is. You got to read this thing at AL.com. She talks so much about this. She talks about what they believed. Hold on, I want to get, let's see. They cry and they tell me they didn't know. She says, a few days later when I call time of death, I hug their family members and I tell them the best way to honor their loved one is to go get vaccinated and encourage everyone they know to do the same. They cry. They tell me they didn't know. They thought it was a hoax. They thought it was political. They thought because they had a certain blood type or a certain skin color, they wouldn't get sick. Those are both conspiracy theories. They thought it was just the flu, but they were wrong, and they wish they could go back, but they can't. So they thank me and they go get the vaccine. And I go back to my office, write their death note, and say a small prayer that this loss will save more lives. Alabama's lost more than 11,400 people. All those the different excuses that she was talking about, people do not generate them themselves. You take a person, you raise them in the woods, they don't come up with that shit. They have to be convinced of it. They have to hear it from people that tragically they respect and look up to. Apologies, I'm apparently going over. And those are all things that right-wing media, whether it's Fox News, right-wing politicians, as well as independent people like Ben Shapiro and others, have been spreading every single day. and it is conservatives that are dying. It is Trump supporters that are dying. Not entirely. That's the thing about an illness. You can spread it to other people too. And it didn't need to happen. And I understand, if you are getting sick of me going on about this, I get it. I get it. I get focused on things. But what's more important than needless death happening literally every day because of stupid, grifty misinformation from people who know better, people who are vaccinated, lying to all of these people, them dying as a result of it. I have family in Georgia, by the way. I have family in Florida. Less than I did before the pandemic, thanks to this misinformation. But it affects all of us, whether directly or indirectly. Anyway, today's Big News Wednesday. Not just Mad News Wednesday. It's Big News Wednesday, and J.R. Jackson will be joining me on the show. I understand that I've gone over. Wayne, thank you. Yes, we will be talking more about that story soon. Shanna says the Beat bookstores in Seattle are largely independent. That's awesome. There are some great independent bookstores in cities around the country. David Lucian, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate that. Non-Human Humanist says sympathy is only human we should have. Every life is precious and unique. We should do everything to save others without being cruel. I agree. Andar says Tucker Carlson would rather sexually harass a female reporter than answer the question of whether he's vaccinated. That is true. We will be talking briefly about that again today. In any event, JR's coming. Don't go anywhere. If you are going to go somewhere, though, go to twitch.tv/TYT. Thank you for that update about Pelosi. I will look into that, and I'll see you in just a few.